Hello, new and old listeners, and welcome to another episode of Rebooking to Mastery, a book where me, Juggin, a 22-year-old master's student, just tries to disseminate some knowledge that I've accumulated throughout the years regarding books that I've read. So, the book that I'm going to discuss is one that I have held close to my heart for many, many months, of my all-time favorite author in every single book I've read, Robert Greene. Robert Greene is an author who has published many, many important works, from the 48 Laws of Power, to the Laws of Human Nature, to the 32 Strategies of War, the Art of Seduction, Mastery, 50th Law, and, coming soon, the Art of the Sublime. So, a lot of his books really shatter the illusion or the idea that everyone here is a positive figure, a positive person. No one wants power or influence. The first book I read last year, The 48 Laws of Power, kind of shattered that illusion a lot. And it formed the basis of a lot of the way that I look at the world today. Not through the lens of, oh, I want to leverage these laws of power to take advantage of other people, but rather the lens that, oh, there are people in this world who have manipulative intentions. There are people in this world who want to cause harm. Or there are people in this world who are manipulative and want to take advantage of other people in order to achieve their own aims. So I think it's important that we talk about one of the books that I read recently this summer. Not the very first book in his series, The 48 Laws of Power, but rather the 32 Strategies of War. Because this book holds as much value as the 48 Laws of Power does to me. Because it kind of forces you to think in a way that you wouldn't have thought before. In a way that makes you consider ideas, strategies, or thoughts that you wouldn't have considered before. And so I'm going to use this first episode to do the first part of the introduction of the 32 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. And so the first thing to know is that the idea of war isn't going out to this massive battle with your sword out, your armor on, and your shield ready, swinging at the nearest enemy that you want to take down, the nearest enemy that you feel deserves your blade. The idea of war is rather winning without bloodshed. It is one of the greatest strategy-based ways to live life. Brute force, brunt determination, quite ironically, contrary to the previous episode about grit, is not necessarily the way to live. It's not the way to fight, and it's not the way to proceed about doing what you want to do. Something that a lot of us shy from is this idea of strategy, this idea of thinking before you act, not acting reactionarily, and having a grand scheme or a grand strategy to the way you're looking at the world around you. We are just living in a kind of day by day, like, synchronicity rather. And when we are confronted about our lack of strategy, we call out this living in the moment, living in the present thing. While it's not necessarily a bad thing and it's very important to live in the present, that seems more like a coping mechanism or something that is said in order to kind of avert from the reality that one must plan and one must have strategy. And it almost seems downright off kilter when someone says I was strategizing, because there are some negative connotations to this world, to that word of strategy. People illustrate it as something that is like, oh no, I can't strategize. That would be manipulative. And that's not how it works. The greatest generals, one being Napoleon himself, always walked in with a strategy. Some of the greatest warriors in this world walked in to win the battle without even fighting it, to maneuver their opponents so that they wouldn't have to end up really fighting. And that's what strategy is all about. It's not about walking in and slamming your way through everything and hoping for it to work, but it's rather planning your moves and ensuring that the greatest amount of effort is done with the least amount, the greatest amount of results, rather, is done with the least amount of effort. You have to confront this idea and you have to embrace it. You have to allow yourself to be taken in by this idea and necessity for strategy. Because if you don't, other people will, and you will find yourself with the short end of the stick. You will find yourself in a place where you do not want to, because you were, in a sense, afraid of choosing to step forward and use your mind to work your way and achieve things necessary for life. This is not kind of like a board for you to be manipulative, but rather it's a board for you to understand how and provide a perspective as to how the world around us does truly work and what it requires out of you in order to step up to the world. You can allow the world to walk over you, or you can choose to take that step and start planning for how you hope to work through this world. Thank you so much for listening, and join me next episode as we go into the 6 fundamental ideals to become a strategic warrior. And if you'd like to follow me on all platforms, follow me at Rebooking to Mastery on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and drop me a follow on whichever platform you're listening on if you'd like to hear more content. Thank you, and see you next time.